Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is D Mace, is your ranter, and this is the Rant Nation. Listen, guys. So we're gonna talk a little bit about Gilded Age, season two, part two. It's really getting good and starting to ramp up a little bit. So, what's happening right now? I hope you guys can hear me because all this noise in the background. It seems like every time I get ready to do these videos outside, they want to come with this. They don't. You can't do this in the mornings. But anyway, and I just came out because I'm trying to enjoy these last few beautiful days that we have outside here. So you know me, I like to be out on the deck in the sunshine. Anyway, The Gilded Age, Part 2, Season 2. So now what we're finding is that, Oscar Van Ryan, who is Agnes Van Ryan's son. She's the snob. She's the one that's trying to keep the Russells out of the out of the I don't even know how to say it. Trying to keep the Russells out of the society elite. Anyway, because she's old money. Anyway, his her son, he's gay. But back then, of course, back then being gay was frowned upon extremely. So, what happens is now he's trying to figure out, okay, I need to go ahead and I need to get a wife and I need to get a life and I need to do all these things. So he's doing this, trying to get married with one of the Russell daughter. However, uh, George Russell ain't having that. George Russell's like, no, 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 because I need my daughter to be in love, and I want her to be somebody she loves, somebody that loves her. He's like, I love her. I got money. Da da da. He's like, George ain't feeling it. George ain't having it. George kicked him out of his office. So anyway, so now the daughter's still out there trying to find love and trying to find that one, which is interesting because like back in that day, the parents were really responsible for you being connected to people. They were really responsible for your marriage and things like that. It's really interesting how society has changed so much in like hundreds and hundreds of years, where a lot of things that we used to do, we no longer do those things anymore. People just get married if they want to get married. They don't ask anybody's permission. But back then, you had to do that. Anyway, so that aside, now the Russell family they be having all kind of stuff. Larry Russell who is the son of the Russell family. I told you he was trying to break into architecture and trying to do these types of things. So now his mother's helping to push along with her friend, helping him to push his agenda and push, his portfolio and stuff like that, and trying to get him out there. So they're going like, different prominent neighborhoods and stuff like that to introduce him to people, to let them know that he can go ahead and he can do some wonderful changes in your house. Well, they meet this one lady who was a widow. She's not as young as Larry. Larry's like in his early 20s, maybe, still at Harvard. She's maybe in her 40s, maybe late 30s, early 40s. Anyway, she's a widow. She's got this old, drab, rundown Victorian house. Not really run down, but just old looking Victorian house that she wants to change because her husband passed away and she's ready for some change. She's ready to make it new. And so Larry's walking around and he's looking at the different things that he could do. What's happening, though, is they are getting a little bit of a connection there. Like, she's attracted to Larry and Larry's picking it up. And so Larry's attracted to her. Larry's a young man. He's like, hey. Anyway, so they're catching vibes with each other. And so now also Bertha's catching this vibe and she's like, so she's trying to deter this a little bit. But it just keeps moving. It's moving really fast. So anyway, he gets the contract with this lady. He's going to fix her house. They decide that, hey, they're going to go ahead and work together. Well, go ahead and fast forward after this. Now they get to the tennis match where they have this big casino where there's games and different things like that. That the elite would come to and bet on the games and the horses and the tennis matches and stuff like that. Well, he's there. He's there with his sister and his family, and so also the ladies there. And so now also here's the interesting thing is Marion Brooks, who is the woman I told you I think they're going to have a love connection. This is Agnes Van Agnes Agnes Van Ryan's these names. Agnes Van Ryan's niece. So she and Larry are becoming really good friends, but I think they're going to get together. But we're going to kind of see. Anyway, so her and Larry run into each other there, and they're talking, and they're kind of. She likes Larry a little bit. You kind of see the flirtation in her eyes. So her and Larry are sitting there having a talk and a discourse. Well, the widow who he's been helping has caught feelings for him, and he caught feelings for her. She walks up and she looks at Marion, and she's like, "Who are you?" And then he introduced Marion, and he's like, "Well, let me go ahead and do this." And her and Larry begin to walk off somewhere. And Marion goes on about her business. Well, you cut a couple more scenes, and now she runs into Larry and Marion again, and she looks at Mary. She looks at Marion. She says, "Oh, you again." So this is just really interesting to kind of see what's happening right here. And Marion's kind of being really low key, like she's not thinking on that type time, but she does. You could tell she does find Larry attractive, and Larry does like her. So we're gonna see where that's gonna end up with these two, and how that's gonna work out. Now, the thing is, Larry went home with the widow, and she told him, "I want you to come in." And they came in and they got busy. So you cut to the next day. Larry's coming home with his clothes all disheveled and everything like that. He's been out that night of carousing and sex and everything else. Well, Bertha ain't having that. Bertha comes to him and she's like, "Where you been?" And then he tells her, and they have this whole argument. And she's like, "Lower your voice." And it's a mess. So now Bertha's like really tore up about this because she's like she wants Larry to marry a younger woman. She wants Larry to marry a younger person and not this lady. She doesn't think she's good, for Larry. But Larry don't care. Larry's like, "Look, I like her. She's cool." Larry gonna do what he gonna do. Anyway, so there's that, and then she tells George, her husband, about this, and George is kind of like, "Look, just let me go back to work. I just came to say hello and kiss you and go on about my business, but we'll work it out." So it's getting really really good, getting really good. They did bring the maid, not the maid. They brought the secretary back, Peggy Scott. So now she's back with the Van Ryan. She's working with Agnes Van Ryan. Agnes Van Ryan is very happy to see it. But also there is another person there, one of the maids there, who does not like her because she's black. And so she's giving her a hard time, but Agnes Van Ryan ain't having it. So she tells the lady, she's like, "Look, you either get along with her and you treat her right, or you're gonna lose your job." And so the lady's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't lose my job. What am I going to do?" Because she has a mother over someplace living in some kind of a rundown tenement that she takes care of. But she's got to listen to what Agnes is saying. She's like, she want to mistreat the girl, but she want to keep her job. And Agnes is saying, "I ain't having it. This is the best secretary I've ever had. You're going to treat her right. You're going to treat her with respect, and you keep your job. When that goes out, you go out. Plain and simple." So now this lady's kind of grappling with that, and you can kind of see even when they go to the table, because the servants have a little room and a little table that they get together with, and so as they're sitting at the table, she's still kind of feeling some type way towards Peggy. But Peggy ain't worried about it. Peggy stepped up on her. She was like, "You don't want no trouble with me, lady." So anyway, it's really getting good. It's really getting good, man. You guys got to check it out. But the last part, the last thing I'm gonna drop on you, is at the end. What happens here? Yeah, this is spoiler field. So if you, there it is. Anyway, so at the last part, in episode one, not in episode one, but in the first season, they have a maid. Their maid was attracted to George. She was trying to come on to George and trying to seduce George, and it didn't work out. Well, Bertha found out. Bertha and George kicked that maid out, straight out. She was a very mean, cantankerous lady. She full of mess. Kicked her out. Well, the interesting thing is they have another couple here because she's trying to elevate in the upper echelon of society. Bertha is, and so they come to this party. They have to meet these people, and it's winter tours or something like that. The Winterton couple, and so they're like, "You have to meet Mr. and Mrs. Winterton, and they're really high up in society, and they'll be able to help you in X, Y, and Z." Well, they meet the Wintertons, and guess who Mrs. Winterton is? It's the maid. And so she comes and looks at Agnes like, I mean, not Agnes. She comes and looks at Bertha like, it's interesting, and then they're like, everybody's like shook, and they're like, what are we gonna say? What will we say? And Bertha says to the family, "We ain't gonna say nothing right now. And when we get home, I don't even know if we're gonna say anything then." And so it just cuts from there. But it's a really good, really good, really good show, man. Check it out. Gilded Age. Check out the first season too, and build your way up to the second season. It's really good. So that's my take on the Gilded Age. Just enjoying it, man. A whole lot of other things that I didn't touch on that's actually going on right now. But yeah, definitely check it out, guys. Like, comment, share, subscribe.